Okay, let's have another. So let's have a look at my rating damage as well. Recently, I lost 2 to quite low. Well, 2024. That knocked my rating. Not that I should be caring about ratings that much online anyway. But the first one, which did damage, was Barvin yesterday. So I went up to 2155, dropped 30 points, then dropped another about 21 points. Oh dear. And I've just gained 2 from that first win and 3 from the second. So climbing back up there is going to take some time. Someone from Cyprus. Okay, my parents are both from Cyprus. Whoops. What's going on here? Actually, I feel quite asleep. I wonder if he's heard me on YouTube anyway. So I don't usually play this line, but I'm hoping not to get slaughtered if I use both knights well to hold d4. I don't know if you remember the games in the past, bishop d3 and king e2, they were successful, keeping the kind of bind on e5. Like Maroczy bind is on d5, this is on e5, it's like moved one along, isn't it? Maroczy bind pawns on c4 and e4. This one's d4 and f4, but it's d4 collapsing. I think there was this idea that check in some lines is not going to be that harmful. I'm at a3 here on knight e2. a3 will cut out bishop b4 checks, but it might be too slow. I think. I'll just say chat later. Okay, so is a3 a move here or knight e2? I should really know this if I'm going to play it. So a3 or knight e2. I think bishop d3 is not playable. There's no trick at the moment. So knight e2 or even g3. G3, king f2, king g3, bishop h3 later, king g2. I think that rings a bell. G3. So all I want to do is play for this and knight e2 and castle. That should inhibit f6 sometimes, depending on now that move signals when that move is played. I have this visualization of a bunny with big teeth staring at me. Sorry, I'm terrible. So that was a little joke. That was a little joke. Now, sometimes when I see what I think is a blunder, you know, the kind of pressure of the game drops considerably after g6. Because look, if black ever wants to play f6, it's usually going to be with a gambit on e6, which is quite dangerous. I once saw this. Adams versus Mac game in some congress where Adams snapped up 2 pawns and then lost. He lost bishop or something. It was some sort of trap. But without black playing f6, I've really got a bind akin to a Maroczy bind here on e5. So something like king f2 to g2, I've got a free hand in the position. Much easier to play position. Now you might think, well, what about just castling here as well? Castling might actually be good as well, but if king f2 to g2 and bishop g4, there's h5, that justify g6. I wouldn't be laughing then, would I? So maybe just castling here, and it seems to be a free hand type position. So I think A3 just to stop the knights doing anything of significance. I don't want to just get out of that D4 pin. It's a horrible bind. It's a bit like Maroxy bind, I think. One of my recent over the board losses, you know, it was a sort of bind, and I didn't like it because also not only is this bind in the centre, this bishop is difficult to crawl out sometimes, but it could crawl out via D7, I suppose. And okay, I'll give him C4 square, but he's off. The pressure's off D4. Get the king out of the way, out of harm's way. I could play knight G5 if it takes, then there's continual F file pressure to stop castling queenside. If H6, also bishop B5 now. What about knight C3? Just in case bishop B5 is annoying. Am I being outplayed here? Interesting. He could be casting queenside, and he is moving quite quick. So maybe I am in trouble. I won't be laughing soon. So knight C3. Okay. This knight is a good piece. I can't get rid of it. Queen's putting enough pressure on D4 to discourage things. There's knight A4. Knight G5 again. H6. And G4 is H5. Knight D2 is Queen D4. Queen D3 for Knight D2, just trying to. It's Knight B5. So it looks as though I'm getting a worse position here. Horrible. F5. F5 then Knight G5. That looks good, sort of. As though it might present some problem. So I'm going to do that, I think. Yep. Pawn sack puts more pressure on D5 so that knight can't roam at least. So knight G5 ties down to queenside, casting as a knight F7. Actually, maybe after knight G5, bishop G2, this bishop's a bit useless on H3 as it goes. Okay, can I just take here now? So Fe looks like a tempting move now, actually, and then knight G5. Fe. Okay, it's on F1 potentially. Gotta be careful about that. But if he takes, then okay, knight G5. What's his history like? Up and down. So if I take knight G5, it's worth taking for knight G5, surely. I would hope so. F file. There's a couple of French defense games of interest which I've seen recently. One was in Test Chess in the latest Chess magazine, and the other one of the games of the year for US chess, and a Kobian game. Quite interesting French defense games, which show some downsides really of the French defense, both of them in the same sort of manner. So maybe a video with both of them would be interesting, because they both feature somehow, you know, white playing for this thematic kind of Fe and then using the F file, and black really didn't have much counterplay in both examples. I thought that would be quite interesting to check out. Okay, so that looks like a powerful move. So I'm still stuck in this position. There. Unless knight E6, king takes, queen G4. Queen G4's mates, isn't it? Embarrassing. So I think knight E6 is a good move. Stops any rook F8 for the moment. Alright, I think knight e6, go with that. Can't see anything wrong with that. There's knight c5 after. And there's queen. Okay, knight e6 looks really, really tempting. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Knight e6. Bishop h6 just to connect the rooks, then queen g4 to protect that rook. I'm a bit worried about this rook on this gaze of the queen here. So that's the Cyprus flag. Okay, so he's now actually threatening king takes. If I play knight c5 and then get frontal pressure on d5, knight e5 queen d5, I think that will be good. Okay, so queen d5 on the cards. So queen c6 is actually pointing at my king. Queen d4 or rook f7. Queen d4, the knight hasn't got too many squares. Then there's also b5, queen b5, queen d5. I think, and if rook f8, bishop g5, so I think queen d4. The knight hasn't got that many squares. I think b5 is a threat now. Nice blockade of that pawn, which is otherwise quite dangerous maybe, but he hasn't got that many pieces to attack with. I just need to connect rooks maybe, or just play b5, queen takes, queen d5 and calculate that. King now, rook f7 is crushing. Okay, bishop h6 here. Take, take, take. Is it needed? b5, is it all needed? Right, just bishop g5. Much simpler. Bishop g5 is well, it's probably worth looking at though. Bishop h6. Take, take, take. Get a forceful rook f7 out of it. Rook f7 or b5. Okay, he plays queen e6. Okay, I think that rules it out. I'm going to play this for bishop f6. Okay, so I'll play bishop f6 and I wonder if my possible way into an Olympiad is to try and play for Cyprus actually. But I don't know. I don't know if that's theoretically possible or legally possible. Actually, I haven't been to Cyprus that much over the last few years. It's been many years since I've been to Cyprus actually. Okay. And there's a rook hanging here now. After taking an e6, winning a rook. But queen e6 has got queen e4. But the bishop covers e3, so it's not quite perpetual. So I probably can take e6, queen e6, queen h8, queen e4. King g1, let's say knight e3, I can just take, check, rook f2. So I think I'm going to do that. e6 does seem to be, or even simpler, after queen e6, it's queen g7, there's no queen e7, so that'll be with check, taking the rook. So queen g7, now king c6, b5, it's not needed, is it? Unless knight d2 is really powerful, there's bishop d2, I think I can just take this and I'm threatening queen d8. So knight d2 I take. Actually, there's no. Hang on. Knight e3 is dangerous. There's no rook on f2. There's no rook on f2. Oh dear. Okay. Panic stations. Okay. Queen d8. Queen. So knight f3 is now dangerous. Okay. Queen d8, queen c7, queen b5. Chasing the king. Queen d8. Oh, okay. I'll start the checks, see where they go for a moment. So queen d6, king b5, there's a4. Is there a safe route here to do something or not? Queen d6. Starting to get dangerous for my king. King b5. b5 first would expose something. I don't know if h4 is worth considering. We'll just rook f1 actually. Just rook f1 to be able to play rook takes f3. So I think queen c8 actually takes it on b7. And we've got rook f1 if needed, if I can't defend my king. Okay. So queen a6 here. For a moment the chase is on. Chaser. So rook f1 here. Queen d4, king g2. Or just rook f2. Right, 5:39. So knight f3 I take. Try and get my queen back somehow to the rescue. Queen f1. I've got a passed pawn now. Knight f3. Alright, so I just move king g2 or rook f2. I think maybe rook f2, knight g4, queen f1. Alright, so rook f2, knight d3 though. It's more troublesome. So I can't get out of the perpetual. That's fantastic. What have I done? Knight d3. Has he really got a perpetual in this position? It's likely. King g2, queen e4, king h1. Looks like perpetual check time. That's why king can come out. So queen here, there's. I'm going to get mated, aren't I, with knight d3 and stuff. Oh dear. So rook f2, knight d3. Messed this up. Unless queen sack time. Bishop e3. Intriguing. That's a mess. Bishop e3, queen takes. Nope, I can't see a thing there. And king's too exposed. I think he's just grabbed the perpetual. Queen h3, king g2. Grabs the perpetual there. So rook f2 is not helping matters. I can't see a thing. Apart from bishop e3. That's a shame. Dear oh dear. King f2, knight d3 really makes things worse, doesn't it? Queen f3. Actually, my queen's protecting f1, so this is hair raising, but I could go for it. Let's go for it. Queen f3, knight d3, king d2. About to be mated, aren't I? 2 minutes 27 left. Queen f3, king e1, knight d3, king d2. Might be troublesome if I win that knight. 2 minutes 27. Huh. Oh dear, oh dear. So is he going to commit to queen f3? In fact, queen f3, what about just king g1? Doesn't that buy me a tempo? King g1 just buys me a tempo. Blimey. How does that work? Interesting. King g1, I bought a tempo with that move. I don't have to play king e1. Incredible. So 2 minutes 27 though. Do I really have enough time to win this with media encoder? That's the question. Probably not. Don't like to go below 2 minutes. I might just king over here for a sec. Only move, in fact. It's going to be rook f3. Oh, now it's perpetual, for sure. Walked into another perpetual. I can't escape this. Rook f3, unless I want to lose the rook. I think I'm going to accept draw. It's a mess I made of that. Oh, exciting anyway. Okay. Blimey. Oh. Oh dear, oh dear. King safety. My king safety is a problem here after winning the rook. Who would have thought? The queen and knight coordinating quite powerfully. So there's a need for maybe indeed queen g7 was worth checking out. Was there something much simpler here? What about just rook d1 and now the exchange of queens, rook d5? Should be a good end game. Very committal to take this out of. It's powerful. It's just knight and queen coordination. Saves the day. Oh well, quite exciting. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks so much.